Hello everyone and welcome to WWD's webinar series. My name is Amber Mundinger and I'm the Vice President of Summits and Events. We thank you so much for joining us today and we're just going to go through a few housekeeping items before we get started. Just so everybody's aware, if you need to submit any problems or you're having any issues, please type them in the chat window that you see and WWD will be able to help you with anything. Also, all of your lines are muted. We have done that on the WWD side, but we do please ask you to mute your own phones as a backup. And if you would like to submit questions during this webinar, please do so via the Q&A pod. Within the Q&A pod, we will then, at the end of the session, moderate your questions with WWD and Arthur Zakowitz, our executive editor of branded content. So again, thank you everyone so much for joining us. And today we will be talking about optimizing supply chain efficiency with predictive analytics and the voice of the customer. I'd like to introduce both of our presenters for today. First, I'd like to introduce Gretchen Jeserk, who's the Vice President of Marketing and Product Management at First Insight, as well as Mark Chrystal, the SVP and Chief Supply Chain Officer at David's Bridal. Thank you all so much for joining us, and I'll now hand the webinar over to Gretchen to start the presentation.
Thank you, Amber. We all know that the retail environment is really tough, and in tough times we need to up our game and get even better at what we do. So today we'll be talking about a tool to help retailers and brands make better assortment, selection, and pricing decisions from the perspective of the supply chain leader of David's Bridal, the U.S. leader in bridal gowns and related merchandise. Organizations including Gartner and the MIT Sloan School have reported that at least 50% of new products are considered failures. They don't meet their objectives. What's the scope of this problem? It's costing retail $1.1 trillion globally per year, as reported by IHL. First Insight has benchmarked this across the 8 million plus data points we're collecting every month across retailers in a variety of categories and geographies, representing over $300 billion in combined revenues. I'm sharing some of these benchmark data with you today. Our analysis has shown that over 60% of new products fail. Later in this session, Mark will talk about these results specifically for David's Bridal. So based on our aggregated data, the average new product success rates in North America are 36%. For the global women's wear category, the success rate has been even lower at around 32%. We'll hear later in this session that these figures actually align pretty well with the results for David's Bridal specifically. So what are some of the challenges contributing to the high new product failure rates? Really products that don't resonate with customers or that are priced incorrectly. That's the starting point. What this drives then is excess inventory of poor performers and stockouts of the winners. And that really represents a missed upside revenue potential for retailers and brands. Also, many retailers rely heavily on in-store testing, which can be really costly, time-consuming, and frankly not highly predictive. We'll hear later, again, about how these challenges impact David's Bridal and how they're using First Insight to help them address them. In any situation, there are factors that you can control and there are ones that you can't. For retailers, two things that you can control are the product and the price. And really, having the right product at the right price is the foundation for success. So let's talk a little bit about the First Insight solution and how it can help retailers to select, price, and plan their winning new products. So First Insight is a cloud-based software as a service solution. It's really a very straightforward four-step process where we help our customers to select the items they want to test, engage with consumers in getting feedback about those products, and then we apply our predictive analytics to their inputs and provide the insights back to our customers. And all of that turns around in a 24 to 72-hour period after we launched the test to the consumers. So really we talk about this in terms of speed, scale, and science. Speed, obviously, within 1 to 3 days. Scale in that this is really infinitely scalable. Customers of ours are testing hundreds to thousands of new products, some companies running up to 30 tests per week. And the science gets at our predictive algorithm that we'll talk about in a few minutes. So what's unique about the information that First Insight provides is that it's predictive information on how new products will perform in the market before these products are actually launched. So each test includes new items that the company wishes to test, along with several items for which we do have some sales history where we know the performance. We use these strong and weak performing items to weight and filter the consumer respondents' inputs, and that's what helps to make our solution actually predictive. And then we also need basic information about the products in order to run the tests, the name, the images, etc. So once we have that information pulled together, we engage with consumers. This is done most commonly as an email that's sent actually from our customer to their end consumers, members of their CRM database. We can also do this using third-party email panels that we're able to access. And this is then played through and experienced by the consumers either on their computer or on a mobile device. And we're seeing that at least 2/3 of respondents are now engaging using their mobile devices at this point. That's been increasing over time. So we start by asking some retailer-selected questions to get an understanding of the respondents. And you'll see later how David's Bridal is using this information that's gathered from their survey questions to help them. And we can see that there are a number of different kinds of questions here that range from demographic kind of information through to behavioral, and in this case it's very specific to wedding planning, types of dresses, etc. So then the consumers will see a series of products. These are the new products mixed with the ones for which we have the sales history. And they're presented multiple images of the product as well as detailed description and name, etc. And then they're asked to give input about the product in the form of, what do you think someone would pay for this given product? And what do you think of it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Consumers are then given the opportunity to give some more detailed feedback, and these comments are extremely helpful to designers and merchants as they're making decisions about their assortment, but also potentially making some changes early in the design process to improve the success rate of a product before it's finalized. So then once we've gathered these outputs from the consumers, we apply our predictive analytics, leveraging the weighting and filtering approach that I described earlier, and then the system provides a value score for each item. And the value score is predictive of that item's future performance in the market. So these scores range from 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. And predictively over time across all of the categories that we've tested, products that rate a 7 through 10 are outperforming 4s through 6s and are dramatically outperforming 1s through 3s from a value score perspective. So then getting into the detailed information that our customers use to drive their decisions. Here we see the model price, which is the predictor of the average unit retail price of an item over its life cycle. And so what we're seeing here is that this product received a value score of an 8 for a couple of reasons. One, its model price or predicted AUR was relatively close to the test price or the planned MSRP for the product. And also, in terms of sentiment, there was a higher percentage of positive sentiment than negative sentiment for this product. So that drove a relatively high value score. In addition, what you're seeing here in the bottom right-hand corner is the demand curve. And this is a price elasticity curve for this product before it goes to market. Leading analysts continue to tell us that this is truly unique and that no one else is able, frankly, to provide this kind of a demand elasticity curve before having any sales history information. So our customers use this information to help guide their pricing decisions. And then this is the kind of information that's received about a group of products tested together. So here you see them ranked by value score. And in this case, our customer could make the decision to move forward with these 4 items that are ranked or that are receiving a 7 and 8 value score, and frankly to potentially cut or try to modify the products that receive only a 4 value score because they are much less likely to be successful in the marketplace. So after that overview of First Insight, I'd like to hand things over to Mark Chrystal. He's the Senior Vice President and Chief Supply Chain Officer of David's Bridal. Although, as you'll hear from his accent, Mark is not originally from the U.S., he does have very deep experience in the North American retail industry. And Mark is currently working on his PhD in a subject that I'll let him explain to you. So, Mark, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Gretchen. And yes, my doctorate's in consumer behavior. And hello to everyone who has joined the webinar today. I'm going to start by providing some background on David's Bridal for those who aren't as familiar. With a 60-year history of dressing women of all ages for life's special occasions, David's Bridal has become known for outstanding value, fashionable designs, the ease of one-stop shopping, and the ability to take a bridal gown home the same day. David's Bridal has developed a dominant market position where 1 in 3 brides in the U.S. wears one of our wedding gowns, and nearly 60% of women in the U.S. will choose to shop at a David's Bridal store across the U.S. and Puerto Rico. We now have 322 retail stores across North America and the United Kingdom, and davidsbridal.com has become the #1 bridal website, receiving over 70 million unique visitors a year and over 90 million web sessions a year and growing. Our success is built on a vertically integrated and multi-channel bridal design approach that allows for the best product availability, assortment, and value proposition in the bridal industry. Our broad assortment of bridal gowns, styles, and sizes covers price points from $99 to $2,000. In addition, we carry a full range of related apparel and accessories, including prom and homecoming dresses and wedding gifts. To further support our broad assortment, we also offer alterations in every store and a centralized gown restoration capability. We offer 11 owned or exclusive brands, from White by Vera Wang, Truly Zac Posen, and Ole Cassini store brands like DB Studio, which all cover different price points and product aesthetics. Our aim is to provide a one-stop shopping destination for our customers for all of her special occasions, but with a specific focus on helping her to find her wedding gown, the one dress that she feels truly special in. As a retailer, we know that if we do that, we then have a better opportunity to provide all of the related purchases that surround the gown purchase. Given our dominant market share position, to drive growth, we needed to expand into new customer segments while protecting our core offering. Part of this expansion was into more fashion-forward products. But with the increasing pace of trend changes, we decided to move away from in-store product testing as it was too slow and also too expensive to support our needs. While the strategy did improve our time to market for fashion, the lack of new product testing resulted in a decline in new product success rates and increases in markdowns and overall inventory levels. The issues were compounded by the fact that for us, it can take almost 2 years to clear a poor style performer. Clearance product is not generally desired by bridal shoppers. And ultimately, these are the issues that cause us to turn to First Insight. Underpinning our decision to partner with First Insight are a set of factors that are common across the retail industry. And these are the speed of change in customer demand, combined with the complexity of omni-channel retailing, which has brought increased competition and provided customers with easy ways to compare and contrast products and prices across all product types. This speed of change and market complexity means that it's nearly impossible for a small group of merchants to really understand what is happening and how to respond without supplemental insights. Traditionally, merchants and buyers were hired by retailers based on their ability to understand and anticipate customer wants. In my opinion, the days where this merchant job can be done effectively and at scale while relying on traditional merchant methods are generally in the past. Those traditional merchant methods also heavily relied on point-of-sale information and analyzing what the customer purchased as a means of determining replenishment, markdowns, and new product orders. However, what POS data doesn't provide is insight into why the customer did, or more importantly, did not choose to purchase an item. In order to overcome some of these shortcomings, the voice of the customer has to become an important component of the product and price planning process. And as part of this, mixed methods of analysis have become an important tool for executives, merchants, and merchandise planners. Mixed methods analysis is a combination of quantitative and qualitative data to form a broader understanding of a particular problem. Quantitative data only measures what can be objectively observed. These are measures like units sold, price paid, or the number of visits to a website. Comparatively, qualitative data provides subjective insights and can provide insight into why a unit was sold, why the customer believes they paid the right price, and why they chose to visit one website over another. Separately, neither type of data provides the right level of understanding in order to make good assortment decisions. In my opinion, retail best practices combine both types of data and do so at the speed required to support decision making. Putting this in context, the quantitative data collected through First Insight allows us to understand how customers ranked our products and the prices they would be willing to pay. Then the collection of qualitative insights on each product allows us to understand why certain products were ranked the way they were. In aggregate, these insights can be coded and themed to provide broader insights into product perceptions that not only inform the current assortment selection, but also provide the business with insights that can inform future product development, merchandising, as well as marketing. For example, knowing which attributes of the gowns drive the most positive sentiment allows us to tailor our designs and also create visual merchandising and marketing displays like email that focus on those positive attributes. Combining these quantitative and qualitative insights through First Insight provides a fuller set of information that can be used to reposition the assortment and generate positive sales and margin traction. In total, the use of First Insight feedback has allowed us to reduce the number of styles going to markdown by 20%. Another challenge I mentioned previously was the need for David's Bridal to bring product to market faster than we had done previously. This need led us to eliminate in-store testing. In large part, this was because we found that in-store testing added months to the product to market timeline and added considerable supply chain and product costs. Further, our store testing relied solely on point-of-sale data, so with little or no direct input from customers. Our solution for this was to introduce testing through First Insight, but it also led me to rethink the importance of in-store testing. I've led merchandise testing and analytics functions at a number of retail organizations, and I found store-based product tests to be difficult to control, with different execution standards and store formats leading to results that don't always translate to predictable results when those products were expanded to broader groups of stores. Yet, in-store testing clearly has a place. But due to the availability of technologies like First Insight, I believe in-store testing is more important for visual and experiential testing and how those factors impact upon product selling, rather than as a gold standard of whether a product is desirable or not. And I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. As I noted before, when we relied on in-store testing alone, we had a product to market timeline before we could roll winning items to chain of about 8.5 months. With the implementation of First Insight, we are now able to cut months out of our time to market calendar. Even without any test accuracy improvements, this capability provides a significant improvement to the business through revenue acceleration and the reduction in testing costs. Including the test accuracy improvements, it's hard to argue the viability of the approach. However, one of the main objections that I've heard as I've tried to champion the First Insight testing approach in several retail organizations is their reliance on image-based testing. Those most vocal about their concerns about the First Insight approach have frankly been merchants or executives that have been more traditionally trained in the art of retail. And I don't say that to invalidate those objections because I think there are many valid concerns, but there are two counterpoints that I can offer to those with concerns about the technology and the general product testing approach. First, we, David's Bridal, are finding that our customers are now spending most of their product browsing time using image-based research tools. For example, internet and website searches, Pinterest, Google Images, and magazines, amongst many others. Going to visit a store to see the physical product is now only done when they've narrowed their selection and ruled products in or out of consideration for a store visit. In fact, the data on this slide came directly from insights gathered through our First Insight testing, but it lines up with separate market research that we've conducted. And I believe this is a phenomenon that most retailers are facing. So I think that First Insight's image-based approach actually fits well with how customers are shopping for products, and it certainly has direct applicability to digital commerce, even if reservations remain around whether the methodology translates well into brick-and-mortar results. I believe the second counterpoint to objectors has come from the results themselves. As the leader of the supply chain functions and the merchandise planning and inventory management teams, my opinion on what should or should not be carried in the assortment is generally viewed by my more creative merchant and design counterparts as the opinion of a bean counter. So at the end of the day, having someone like me champion a capability like First Insight only goes so far with the merchandising and design functions. I found that to gain traction, engagement, and endorsement by those functions, we have to see that the capability actually adds measurable improvements. To this end, this slide shows the new product hit rate for items tested through First Insight compared to the hit rate on items where we only relied on the merchandising teams to select new product winners in the assortment. As you can see, use of First Insight has improved our ability to pick winning styles by about 30%. In my experience, it's only through this type of measurable result that objectives become adopters and then endorsers of this type of testing approach. At the end of the day, I've found my merchandising counterparts to be supportive of any tools that can be trusted to improve their ability to select the right products. I think these are the types of results that build trust in the approach. Up next for David's Bridal, we're working with First Insight to do some deeper testing and research into price perceptions. To give some background on this, we've attempted to appeal to new customer types. We've added additional features to our products, most of which have not resulted in increased demand or an increased willingness to pay a higher price for the item. So I'm currently working with the team at First Insight to conduct tests aimed at understanding how certain product attributes are valued by customers, such as beads or lace details. We're also going to research how customers perceive those details on our products versus the products offered by our competition, and also how the David's Bridal brand and our product sub-brands influence those value perceptions. The end goal is to better inform the design, merchandising, and production teams on which product details can and cannot command an incremental price, and we're also seeking to fine-tune our product offering by price point. An example of some of the data collected through the First Insight research is shown in this slide. Here the testing is showing us that 26% of our gowns have some additional perceived value where we may be able to price higher. In contrast, 11% of our gowns may be overpriced, where perhaps we have added product details that increase our cost and the ticket price, but the customer's not seeing the value. In addition to the value perception research, we're also working to understand how different customer segments perceive our products. Through market research, we've identified certain customer segments where we have an opportunity to grow share. In effect, they're considering us but ultimately rejecting us for various reasons. Through some first insight research, we will soon be collecting product and price perception information on each of our customer segments so that we can identify the specific actions we can take to reduce the number of product and price rejectors in those target customer segments. So as a recap, I just want to reiterate some of the key points from this presentation and my learnings from product testing with and without first insight. First, mixed method analysis is critical for understanding what tested well and why it tested well. These combined insights are essential for generating the right actions across the supply chain and the other functions that support product sales like visual merchandising, digital commerce, and marketing. The switch from in-store testing to first insight testing has greatly accelerated our ability to move from product concept to product in the market. And in my opinion, image-based testing has now become more relevant than physical store testing, primarily because of the shift of consumers to image-based product research methods. This also directly supports the first insight approach as being a highly relevant tool set for digital commerce, even if you can't fully understand the application to brick and mortar sales. And ultimately, the team at David's Bridal has found the first insight capability to be an important tool in our product selection process as we continually strive to deliver exact right product, price, and experience to our customers.
Mark and Gretchen, thank you so much. That was very thought-provoking and quantitative as well, right? So just to recap, you said it was, Mark, you said it was I guess about a 35% reduction in product to market time, and you had a hit rate improvement of 31%. That's very significant, but is this a lot of work?
No, I would say actually it is not a lot of work. I think when operationalized properly, I would say that it's much less resource intensive than setting up in-store tests properly. First Insight worked with us to develop the process and provided account management resources to build and run the tests. And so for us, it was actually much less intensive than the typical product testing approach that we would run.
Right. And I just want to remind listeners if you have a question, you can just submit it into the Q&A pod while we wait for some questions to come in. Gretchen, can you tell us a little bit about like other product categories, other than bridal gowns, where this kind of product testing, predictive analytics approach would work?
Sure, happy to. So we've been working with the home goods category. For example, At Home is one of our customers. In the jewelry space, we work with firms like Helzberg Diamonds. In sporting goods, for example, Dick's Sporting Goods. And footwear is another large and growing category for us, with companies including Caleres and Camuto. We also work, to Mark's point earlier, we work with some pure online retailers such as HSN. And likewise, we've been expanding not just across different categories, but internationally as well. So we're now working with retailers around the world, testing in a large number of languages and countries across Europe, Asia, and Latin America.
Are you seeing, when you're testing in I guess, multinational kind of markets, there must be differences in consumer, sentiment. Is that, or is it, are people just people, and are we seeing very similar kind of preferences and sentiment on products? Hello?
Can you restate the question, Arthur?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Are you seeing kind of, when you're working in multinational markets or global market, are you seeing differences in consumer sentiment? Is it, if I'm a retailer with, kind of 1,500 stores across different countries, I expect that the differences are going to be very apparent in predictive analytics, right? You're going to see different preferences that you could tailor and inform your merchandising decisions.
Yes, thanks for the clarification, Arthur. Yeah. Absolutely, and one of the very interesting things that we do with a number of our customers who, let's say a European retailer that has stores in France, Italy, Spain, Poland, and Germany. So we're able to test in all of those locations and look at the results individually for those countries, and yes, we do see in a number of cases very different perceptions of the product, both from a willingness to pay perspective as well as the sentiment, what people like and dislike. What we're also able to do, as many of these retailers are trying to create, let's say, global assortments or a primarily common assortment that they may sell across multiple geographies, we're able to also roll up those results and give overall value scores and sentiment and perceptions so that they could look at a global assortment but then weight their buys more heavily or less heavily in different markets, and also have market-specific items, so they could have some items in the assortment that are shared across geographies and some that are specific to a given region or country.
And we have a question. The Bridal customer is very engaged, right? So what is the survey response rate of customers for input data in other retail categories? Is it different?
That's a great observation, and certainly the Bridal customers are indeed quite engaged. This is maybe a once-in-a-lifetime kind of a decision, but we do actually see very strong response rates across the other categories as well. And what we hear from our customers is that they see response rates that are easily 2 times to 5 times or more higher than their usual response rates to standard emails. What we're also seeing is that a number of our customers decide to include an incentive where they may say, at the end of this game, you'll be presented with a coupon for 10% off a $50 purchase on xyz.com, on their website. And a number of our customers are seeing very strong conversion rates coming off the back end of these consumer engagements, because you do in fact have a very engaged consumer at that time after they've just spent a few minutes going through and giving their input about future products. So we have one customer, for example, that drove $650,000 in revenue off a wave of tests.
And typically how many consumers are participating in a test of, let's say, one product?
So generally these would be groups of on the order of maybe 10 to 15 products that would be presented in a test to a consumer. And we usually need to have about 200 completed tests, responses in order to be able to close out an insight. And so, that's the kind of number that we would see.
Hey, Mark, I have a question. So the customer for shopping in Bridal, do you really expect them to really know what they want if we're talking about like a 6 or 12-month lead time?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think some customers know and some don't. The key is listening to the right customers, and First Insight actually helps retailers filter out the noise and listen to those that give accurate feedback. If you think about it, we as retailers spend 6 to 12 months developing product, manufacturing it, placing it in the stores, and in the end, it's the customer who votes. And on the basis of what I discussed previously, I think it's essential then to get customer opinions integrated into the assortment selection process.
I just want to go back. You had mentioned kind of the consumer behavior change as far as like image-based product research, meaning or she is on a mobile device, looking and shopping at visual images, as well as in social media, right? We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're looking at photos. This is relatively new, right? Kind of phenomenon. And I'm asking you as if you could just put on your PhD hat for a second.
Sorry, what's the question in terms of just the phenomena?
Yes, yeah, like, and how is it affecting the entire market, I guess?
Well, I think it has. I think retailers across the board are struggling with traffic to stores right now, and it's a whole industry that from an academic perspective is kind of in this very disruptive mode, and retailers who don't respond well to these shifts are going to go away. And as I mentioned, the customer is now has got an unbelievable amount of information at their fingertips, pricing and products, and they're doing that all through digital devices, and they're getting a lot of customer reviews and feedback, but they're also just spending a lot of time doing product research through images and site comparisons. And ultimately, it's only once they've narrowed down that selection are they actually coming to the store. And then even when they come to the store, because they've narrowed it down and they're not as kind of prone to browsing anymore. They're kind of honed in on a kind of small selection of products. They expect the experience to be efficient in the stores. And so fundamentally, it's shifted the mentality, it's shifted the market. And I think the retailers that are performing well now are the ones who actually have understood that shift and are embracing that shift, and it's why I feel confident again in this kind of first insight testing approach, where traditionally you had to test in stores, and because that's where the customer was. Now the customer isn't there; they're kind of decreasingly so, and only when they're kind of close to the purchase point.
Gretchen, I have a question from you, from our listeners. What sort of incentive do you give the participants for their feedback, or are they just really happy to share it with you?
So, great question. We do find that the majority of our customers do not offer any incentive, and in fact, it really fits with, as Mark's been describing, the changes in consumer behavior, where more and more consumers believe that they should be in a position to shape the brands that they care about. And so they are, in fact, interested in giving their opinions and sharing their thoughts and feelings on these products because they're happy to be asked, and they see that as their way of shaping this brand that's important to them. Some of our customers do decide to offer an incentive, and that's often in the form of some sort of a coupon code that these consumers can then use to continue on. Frankly, at the end of the game, there's a Shop Now button almost in every case because that's enough incentive to get people to perhaps just go right to the website and check out some products they might want to buy there that are similar to what they just gave feedback about. In some cases, though, it is an actual, save 20% on your next online purchase with, thelimited.com. And that is the kind of incentive that we're seeing driving incremental sales for a number of our customers.
And is the solution First Insight platform, is it scalable, like on a very large mass level with multiple maybe 100 products?
Absolutely. We have very large department store customers, including a very significant one in Europe, and they are using our product across at least 60 different departments. They're running, on average, maybe 30 tests per week, and that's encompassing then, like I had said earlier, on the order of 10 to 15 products per test. So this is definitely scalable, and that's one of the strengths of an online platform like Mark was describing.
And also, as a way of follow-up, if you could reduce the product to market time, right, that gives you more time to react. If you're testing a product, consumer testing it, you could kind of inform your merchandising more efficiently and quickly, right?
Yes, so there are a few aspects to that. One is that really successful users of our platform tend to test across the new product development process. So they may test early when they're in the sketch or the CAD phase and get a feel for which silhouettes are going to be successful, which designs will be successful, and then decide to move forward with the best of the bunch, and then flesh those out into actual physical samples, or more and more the 3D technologies are getting so strong in terms of the ability to show what a real product would look like. But honing that, and then as they get closer to market, then they're really finalizing final detail and maybe the pattern selection and the final pricing selection. So it can both be used across that whole continuum, but also enables you to make decisions faster and get your products to market faster. And that's part of what Mark was showing with this reduction of about 3 months out of the new product testing and launch cycle at David's Bridal.
Yeah, can I jump in on the question as well?
Yes, please.
Just to provide some additional information, so I think one of the ways that we've been successful in using First Insight is actually early in the development cycle. So we actually take a team to Asia, and we sit in a factory, and we review all of the styles that have been designed. So for a bridal gown, for example, for a season, we may want to pick 40 or 50 or 60 new bridal gowns, but we develop up to 400 gowns. And what becomes obvious with the merchandising team is the handful of gowns that they know are going to be strong performers and should be part of the assortment. But then there's another group that are discarded immediately, and then there's this middle group that they're not sure about, and we need to fill the assortment, and that's actually where I think First Insight adds some really good value in kind of helping the design and the merchant teams work through how do we go from, okay, we know the top 5 or 10 styles, we've cut out the bottom maybe 100 styles, but how do we pick from the rest? And I think doing that early in the cycle and early in the development process has been valuable for us.
Gretchen, we have another question. How can the First Insight methods be typically applied not only to price resistance analysis, but also to buy quantification?
Sure, that's a great question. So while we certainly do not profess to be a standalone planning system by any stretch of the imagination, and Mark would agree with that, I'm sure, these data streams around the value score and the price that consumers are willing to pay and the sentiment are very valuable inputs into an existing planning system. And so this is really what Mark was describing earlier about a planning system generally is rear view mirror facing, is looking at a very rich data set of historical sales performance of like items. But when the data streams around what consumers said about these new products before they even launch, when those data are added into the planning system, that can make it even stronger. And we have partnerships with companies including TXT Retail planning systems, to be able to actually integrate our data into that system to give an even better forward-looking picture. In addition to that, we're developing new capabilities now with PTC and their ThingWorks technology to be able to optimize the line planning process based on these data streams coupled with POS data and CRM data put through the machine learning platform of ThingWorks from PTC to be able to inform those decisions.
Is there, I guess, any benchmarking? Like if I work on a product with you, is there like other competitors that I could kind of get a sense of where it stacks up, or is that just, are you just working within one company, one product at a time as far as testing?
That's an interesting question as well. So one of the things that we provide in the beginning phase of working with a new customer is generally exactly that kind of benchmarking, to be able to help a company see how their new product success rates stack up against a group of peer companies. Since we are working with a large number of customers across geographies and categories, we have enough of a data set to be able to do that. And so that really helps in terms of the baseline of what is our current new product success rate, where would be some sweet spots where we could apply this tool first, and be able to reap some real benefits. And so, we're able to give a feel for here's where you are now, here's where customers using First Insight have been able to get to in terms of new product success rates, and therefore, where would be the best place to focus efforts first to be able to move the needle.
Well, I thank you, Gretchen, and Mark, thank you so much for taking time today. I want to remind our attendees that the webinar recording will be available within 4 to 5 days, and we'll be sending out a kind of an email follow-up with details about that. Thank you again, David's Bridal and First Insight, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.